got a back chat. I don't know what episode we're on, but we got ShahZaM. You've all been clamoring for him. You've all been calling for him. And eventually, we've got him on the show. So welcome, ShahZaM. Thank you very much for joining us, taking some time out of your schedule as well to come on back chat and answer a couple of questions with us.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, of course. Who was our last guest that we had?
I got it. I mean, it was
Stanny, I think.
Yeah, it was Stanny.
It was months ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So much has happened since then.
2 weeks ago.
So it feels like eons.
It does,
It feels like a glacial age has passed. Like the ice age itself came, destroyed humanity, and then left again.
It literally did. Because I think just before the winter storm, we did our Dapper interview. I think, did we?
That was the first one.
That wasn't the first one.
Yeah,
Dapper was the first one that we did.
One, and then we did
shit.
several
Well,
after
Dude,
that.
your brain has melted as well.
Never mind. Are you sure?
Yeah, but
Remember Boaster, Sean, Sliggy, etc.
Fuck. Yeah, no, you're right.
It's wild.
You're right.
The passage
Anyway.
of time.
Let's dive straight into it anyway, because we're all based in Texas. Shaz, you're based in Texas right now, as I found out. Well, I already knew you were based in Austin. But the winter storm that kicked off, what was it like dealing with the winter storm? Because for us on our side of things, I mean, it kind of sucked a lot.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, I don't know how bad it was for you. What?
Good assessment.
It fucking sucked. I'm not going to lie. We were lucky enough to have power, but I don't know. Your situation, I think, was much worse given the tweets that your team was putting out.
Yeah. I remember the Thursday before the winter storm too. It was like freezing rain, and our power actually went out that day too. So we had to cancel all of our practice that day. Like we were in the middle of a scrim, and our power just went out and didn't come back till like 6 hours later. And then that following week, we were gonna start prac again Monday, and that's when the winter storm hit, and we lost power again. And we didn't have power for 74 hours straight.
that is so brutal.
Jesus.
And we also we didn't have water for like almost 4 days or maybe longer, and it was pretty miserable. Like we didn't realize how bad it was gonna be and like how much of a fail Texas was gonna be overall. That none of us prepared. Like we were pretty much degenerate ordering delivery food constantly. That none of us had groceries.
Yep.
So we had to like get together and ration out the snacks that we did have. Like the roads are completely undrivable, no delivery food. And so we were like, okay, I've got Doritos, I've got like cupcakes or something. And so the first night I had like Doritos and ice cream for dinner and then went to bed. And then I remember the next day I took like one of those packets that you make and like crushed it up and poured the seasoning in and like ate it raw. And at some point we're like, all right, I'm gonna try to sleep all day. Like this is terrible. Like how are you supposed to live?
Yeah. Well, I know what you're saying though, because I mean, I'm not as much of a DJ, and I'm not gonna lie, but I had some groceries. I had some, but I was like nearing the end, and I didn't think it was gonna be that bad. But I definitely order food a lot. So I had like one potato and an avocado to last me the winter.
I came over and delivered a potato that was past its prime, and a few peppers that were going soft, and I came over and delivered them on a plate to Kirk because he had no food.
It was bad. Yeah, it was bad. I mean,
to be fair though, we were fucking lucky that we actually had power.
Yeah, we
lost our water, but having power, at least we could stimulate our brains.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing with power too is like the heat.
Yeah.
The heat.
It was so cold. I remember by the second or third day in my apartment, like I woke up and I started shivering and I could see my breath. And I was like, okay, I'm stacking like 5 blankets and I'm going back to sleep and hoping I get some good news eventually because this is terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
And then that happened, that was like right before the Challengers 2 then as well. So that was like one of the talking points going into that was how, like, people questioning how much practice you were actually able to get before the event, or like if you guys felt like competent or warmed up essentially.
Warmed up. Is that a pun about the?
No, it wasn't.
That's
but
terrible.
I'm just. It wasn't a pun. I'm just,
Just naturally witty.
Yeah. It's nothing for me. So, so basically, what I'm getting at is like, did you feel comfortable going into Challengers 2, given the circumstances, or not?
Absolutely not. We didn't scrim for 10 days. None of us had showered for like 5 or 6 days by that point, and we were debating not even playing in Challengers 2 because we still didn't have water, and like we were just so miserable by that point. We're like, is it even worth it to play? Should we go for the next qualifier? But we're like, okay, this is like too big to miss out on. So we're just gonna roll with it and see how it goes. Because like we were trying to find like Airbnb or like a hotel to go or something with water, since obviously we need to like be able to flush a toilet and stuff. And then we started going like the complex pool and fishing out water from the complex pool and then like bringing it back in pots and then like filling up the toilets. And we decided like we're just gonna go and play with nothing to lose and just try our best to qualify. So not scrimming for 10 days is pretty bad too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
so
I mean, you had all of those disadvantages, but also you got the riot water. So that's
true.
Probably the reason that you won, right? That's probably the reason that
the
you qualified.
riot bias.
No, yeah, we got the riot bias. They assisted us. It was really cool of them. There was like a local employee that came and dropped it off. There's no actual like regular water anywhere in the city that we could find. But,
bro, I mean, I feel
flavored.
I woke up at 7 a.m. and the only thing I could find was like Gatorade at like a local 7-Eleven. There was no water anywhere. I was wondering if I was gonna have to cook my pasta in Gatorade.
I still have some small bottles of like chocolate vegan protein milk because it's the only thing I could find that was liquid in the shop. So I bought a bunch of them and they taste like shit. I haven't drunk them now.
That was horrific.
I was just stocking them up for the deep winter.
Yeah, we got dropped off like LaCroix and all the sparkling waters and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Kurt, do you want to pull that bracket back up? And suppose we can get a bit into the Challengers 2 then, since that was the most recent event. And you did make it through. You did qualify for the Master event. So in that way, it was a success. But the big headline really, I guess, is that you had lost in the finals to Envy, who up until this point, Envy had always been a good matchup for you guys. You'd beat them pretty easily every time you had faced them up until this point. But what do you feel happened in that grand final, looking back on it?
Oh man, it was a really tough situation too in the final because they obviously knew we were gonna pick Haven. And we knew they were gonna pick Bind, and with the map disadvantage, like we had to win Haven. And I feel like they had really good reads on us on Haven. They were definitely one step ahead. They pretty much stacked the site that we hit every time. Obviously, we had to go back and look at like the tendencies that led to that being like telegraphed. But we like took way too long to adjust. And then we could have brought it back. Like we had like a terrible attack side. I think we had like 2 rounds or something, and we were in the process of like bringing it back. But then we lost a really bad round where they forced by and like rushed A or something. And even like the rounds on defense, I feel like was just sloppy. Like we just woke up on the day like really sloppy, and we had to win Haven, because our bind obviously has been our veto and stuff. But I know their bind is really good, and I just knew that if we didn't win Haven, like people were not going to be confident going into bind.
Sure, yeah, of course.
I mean, Envy were on a heater as well this tournament. Like it is the best I've seen Food play. It was an absurd performance from them. But yeah, obviously the circumstances coming into the tournament as well for you guys were not exactly ideal. I definitely felt like as well though, maybe this is just Sentinels all the time, but you guys play with some absolute fuck you energy at times, It is very much, and what I mean by that is that it feels like you're a team that never lose confidence in terms of the way that you play, which is quite impressive. You got titanium mentals on every account, from every single player. It feels like even when the situation, like, it felt like they had some very good reads on you in terms of where you were hitting early on in Haven. Still felt like you guys felt like you could win at any moment, which is impressive. Normally, some teams, especially if they're a little bit green when it comes to competing, they taper off a little bit, but not the case with you guys.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, even if we run into a stack, I feel like some way we find a way to make the trades happen. I think that's a play to like the individuals on the team. I feel like, you know, in my career, I've played with players that like if they start slow, they start to be a bit more hesitant about scaling, or it definitely takes a shot at the confidence. But like, I feel like some of the guys on this team, we could be down 0-7 and nobody could have a single kill, and they're still gonna hold W into a site.
Yeah.
And just try to like make the trades happen.
I mean, we actually saw that happen in the upper semis when you guys lost to Envy there, actually. Sinatra at one point was 5-17,
He had
I
more
think.
deaths than rounds on Icebox.
Yeah.
Everybody was still he was playing like he was 30-0 the whole map.
He was just still holding W and getting up in their faces and creating space for you guys, even though he was losing a large amount of the duels. That one was much more of a fleshed out BO3, because the finals, all right, you guys get like, from my opinion, like pretty hard counter-stratted when it came to Haven, and you get boomed there. They already have a map advantage. Okay, the series is essentially over. Like I called it when you guys were 8-1 up. It was, you know, it was not looking good. But the upper finals that you played against Envy was actually a really close, tightly fought series where it went back and forth and ended up being decided by the final map. So that's, I think, another really interesting component, because this was the first time that Envy had ever beaten you. And what do you get the feeling about this game as to why it went their way? I mean, the Icebox game was unusual for you guys, but also you've been trying a bunch of different compositions on Icebox since Challengers 1. The last time you played Icebox, you just kind of ran over your opponents. And then it came down to Split, which has always been Envy and Sentinels' go-to pick in map pools.
Yeah, so Ascent, I know that there are some pretty key rounds like people just owned up to, and like individual mistakes on Ascent that they just kind of said like, you know, this map was a wash. They felt like if we had a rematch on Ascent, it might have gone differently. And they also just they were on a heater like the whole tournament. Like you said, like they were winning every duel, it felt like.
Yeah.
Also their players were playing really confidently. And it's good on them. Icebox, I remember we were also down pretty bad and came back off of like individual heroics. I don't feel like we necessarily outplayed them so much as to them also throwing a lot of situationals. I feel like they should have won on Icebox. I remember like they threw a clutch versus me, and then the round after they threw like a 1v2 versus Oms who had a stinger.
Yes. Yeah.
Like they kind of gifted us in back on that map for sure. Split, that one is really big knock on me, because I feel like we didn't give ourselves a chance on defense split because we were trying so hard to anti something that they have like a tendency doing, and we focused a bit too much on that rather than looking at what they decided to switch up in the match. Because we were having like Jay start a lot towards A, but he was a bit more passive instead of how he's normally aggressive for like their like straight side hits that they like to do. But they were doing like this 3-man ramp default constantly, and we were so focused on what I had seen them do before that we're so late to adjust to like getting aggressive with 3 people on A and denying this default, because they were completely relying on this top ramp control default over and over and over again. So I felt pretty bad that if we had just stuck to like our original way of playing Split, we might have had a better chance on that defense.
On that Split map as well, and really for the entirety of this tournament, we talked about it on the last episode, but it seemed like there was some kind of psychological effect at play where, with everyone knowing that this was the last hurrah of the broken stinger, there were just stingers every round in the tournament.
It was like an ode to someone who was passed.
Yeah, it was. I've never seen so many stingers bought, and then on that Split game in particular, I swear you guys forced every single round. With like every round you had stingers, no matter what. Looking back on that game in particular, do you think that was still the appropriate way to play the economy? Like, are you comfortable in how that went with forcing that so many rounds?
Honestly, yeah, because I feel like the stinger just gives you a chance in the round. I feel like this was with a lot of teams that after it got nerfed, people realized how good it was on this patch, that people started buying it more in the tournament than they would have previously. The gun was just busted, man. Sometimes if you could find a way to scale and get close range fights, like it was better to have a stinger in your hand than a Phantom or a Vandal. Sometimes it felt like, because you could just have people running and spraying close range and just melting people.
Yeah.
So I don't think we played the economy necessarily bad. I think it was just the way we approached defense. We only got like 4 rounds or something. It was a rough defense half.
Do you account for Sentinels have always beaten Envy in the past. It's been just one of those matchups at the tier 1 level where they've never been able to get it over you guys. What would you say is like the key that got them over the line this time and got them to be able to win a tournament and take down this rival that's always been there? Because there's a lot of different factors that you've talked about, but I feel like for me, the confidence with which they were playing and the preparedness with which they came to the match seemed to push them over the edge compared to previously, where maybe they've had a mental block against you or something. What's your perspective from playing in the game? Do you think there was one specific factor that they really got a handle on this time that was not present for them in previous games?
I know it's really vague to say like the confidence, but I do think like some of their players are playing way more confident than they normally do. I know like in scrimmages, Envy would give us a hard time in pracs compared to matches, even while we were like beating them in every match.
Right.
Because it felt like they were way more confident running around and taking fights and taking positioning, or like taking map control by individuals. In scrims that they wouldn't do in matches, they were a bit more hesitant. But then playing against them in this tournament, it felt like the Envy that we were playing in scrims.
Right.
For sure.
Do you think then that this is a sign of I know that a lot of people were asking me the same question as well. Do you think this is a sign of Envy being in a position where they can now translate that scrim success, which has been talked about for,
Since
4
the beginning
months?
of First Strike, people were saying that Envy were like, I remember people saying that Envy would win First Strike when it was starting.
Yeah, and then
based on scrim results.
and then they really flopped. Do you think they've kind of cracked the code in this sense and are going to continue to be a top team and really rival you guys and rival the other teams as being potential tournament winners? Or was this a bit of a flash in the pan and you expect them to go back to how they previously were?
It's tough to say. Personally, I think that they're going to be contenders for the events coming up. They're a team that works really hard in practice, and like you can see the thought process behind the things they do. It's not like they're going into it like blindly trying to run around and take fights. So I think that they could definitely reproduce this moving forward. I think they'll be like a team that we're going to be pretty competitive with too. You could just tell like when you're in the server playing as a team, when they've improved and they've gotten better, they have like reactions. They've definitely gone over like protocols when we do this and how to react. And I don't think that's just confidence. Obviously, like, I was saying like they're running around confidently, but they were well rehearsed too.
Yeah. Well, the rest of the Challengers 2 bracket actually had another mega interesting game that I wanted to touch on.
Definitely.
I'm sure there's a couple of others as well. But your route through this bracket also saw you face off against 100 Thieves in the lower bracket.
You boomed them into a roster change. But watching that game, that seemed to me as a viewer that you just had a high level understanding of what they were going to do. Specifically, Sick on Ascent just outplayed them in mid every single round on defense. He was just massively important to your win. But I suppose my question would be, going into that game, is that how you felt? You just had an understanding of how they would play these maps? Because typically Ascent had been the one that they would win in the BO3 against you.
Yeah, I definitely did a lot of prep for this matchup, but not more than like any other usual match that we play. But it felt like in the server itself, like as they were running a default, as they were approaching around, we had a really good read on what they were doing. And we were also being like really proactive about trying to figure it out. We like on our defense sides, we were constantly making a focus on getting info at some side of Ascent. Like whether it was we're trying to control B main to early on to get info, or we have Sick walk up mid while I'm posted top mid and be ready for like an instant flank A, or we're contesting A main and seeing like we were really good at denying at least some part of the map and reading what they wanted to do really early on. Yeah, the match, I don't know. I honestly don't know if they had the roster change plan before or after. Like it's impossible to know unless they tell us. But I did know that like Ethan was gonna switch to Valorant because he had messaged us like a month ago asking if we were looking to make any changes or anything.
Right.
Obviously like we weren't. But yeah, this match felt it almost felt easier than it should have been too.
Yeah, I mean,
I want to just
go on.
briefly touch on Ethan as well, because we come across the topic as well, and like the concept in people's minds of CS players moving over to Valorant, and the community reaction is always that the expectation should be that they are just going to come in and dominate, especially a player like Ethan, who's been on the top of his game, right? How do you feel, I suppose, your experience in CS translates into Valorant? Because fair enough, there's a one-to-one when it comes to the fact that it's a tactical shooter, but there's so much more in Valorant that's just not as intuitive when you're coming from a game like CS, like with the utility, the way the game plays out, the ultimates, all these aspects of the game. So what is that like, transitioning from CS to Valorant from your perspective? And how do you feel like the community reaction or the expectations of the community, are they in the right place, just assuming that CS players are gonna dominate, like a player like Ethan? Or is it the fact that Ethan's already seen success and he can prove himself? He's already proven himself in a game, so that should be the expectation itself. I'm all over the place with this question, but
It's tough to say. Like, I think it's more so the second one, that he's had like such success recently with other teams in like a really, really competitive scene, that if you can translate that same kind of work ethic into this game, that they should expect similar results. Because you look at someone like Automatic, who was like a really, really good CS player, and he's obviously you could tell he's behind right now. Like, he needs to adjust to make, not that he's bad or anything, that he needs time to adjust to get to the level that he was on at CS:GO, like the level of impact that he's had. I think that, like, from reading the comments that like 100 Thieves players made on stream and stuff about like the change, that they really value the attack FPS understandings of, like, defaulting, playing man advantage, rotations and stuff, which are all things you can learn, but they're also things that like you need to just like have an understanding of. Maybe they thought that the fit for Dicey, there was too much to teach. Like,
sure.
I remember first starting practice with this team. I had to teach like the guys what a default was. Like, to get map control. Like, because Sinatra, I feel like I didn't really play Overwatch, but you constantly do things. From my understanding, is like he's constantly running around, constantly trying to make an impact. And I had to explain the concept of, dude, sometimes you just gotta sit here and hold. Not that you're doing anything, but you have to let someone else or somewhere else on the map be doing the map control, and you're sitting here and holding and doing nothing just to account for if they make an aggressive play here, or just to account for this.
Yeah.
So that was like, like a simple, but the surprising thing to me was that they picked it up really quickly. So I think CS players are extremely stubborn, and hold themselves to really high regard, and like think they're hot stuff, and think that these understandings are like, take years and years and years to learn. And I might have thought that originally too, as like a CS player, but then playing with, Sinatra and ZAMs, they picked up on these concepts really, really quickly.
Yeah, I think that's really the key, is finding people that absorb that information and translate it into their own gameplay rapidly. And that I think is, if you're able to do it in one game, you can more consistently reproduce it in other games sometimes as well, because you've already proven that you have that skill set. So I think that's an interesting component. Well, just returning to the 100 Thieves game for a little bit, and I wanted to address the idea that both in that 100 Thieves game and in the grand finals of Challengers 2, I felt like the deciding factor was that one of the maps that would usually go to a team, as in 100 Thieves winning Ascent and you guys winning Haven against Envy, got boomed by counter-stratting. And like having the team that normally loses, having a great understanding of how their opponent plays and putting things in place to disrupt those plans, gather info and execute on them. And that is something that's constantly happening at the top level, presumably. And I want to get your thoughts on how the tier 1 system is in flux, and is always in flux, because there's the saying that it's harder to stay on top than it is to get to the top. And it seems to play out across every tournament, where it might look like the tier 1 scene is constantly all over the place with people taking maps from each other. But I feel like when you dive into it a little bit more, there's teams get very good, and then they're able to stay at that level until someone figures them out, and then they have to do a constant adjustment. Is that what it feels like from being within the server as well?
Yeah, 100%. There's a lot of counter-strike happening. I think it's very, very easy right now with the limited map pool. You pretty much know exactly how the Vitas are going to go. so you know what to expect and how to prepare for these maps. Also, because it's unique characters and like unique abilities compared to CS, like it's way easy to have tells in this game. You know, if a certain agent is hair, or you see a certain ability like a silver drone being used hair, it's way easier to read this tell if a team has a tendency to do something off of that. Like compared to CS, where it was a little bit more difficult because you know you don't know, everyone has like the same utility. You don't know who's doing what smoke or who's in what position or stuff like that. So that's the hardest part. We play against teams, and you know we'll see them like start running the comps that we were running on maps, or start running the same strategies and stuff that we were running, and we realize like, okay, like these teams are obviously watching us and other teams.
Of course.
So you have to constantly reinvent yourself. Like even with within a tournament, you know, you play a team another time within the same series or within the same bracket or something, and like you can't go in there running the same stuff because they will remember.
The other major drama that came out of this game as well was the ping discussion, which I hate to even bring up again, except that it's so funny. It's just ludicrously funny because the 100 Thieves fans couldn't perceive as to why their team got boomed. They look at the scoreboard, Astra at the bottom, Hiko at the bottom. What's happening? Wait a second. 44 ping? That's gotta be the reason. So I know that you said on stream you were talking about this and you were saying that they just straight up picked the server.
Yeah, we're in Texas, so we ping well to Illinois or Dallas, which are like the two main servers for these matches, and so we always just let the other team pick. There's no like problem or anything. I was more so disappointed that that clip of me saying they picked the server was so upvoted.
It was the number one thing on Reddit for the week.
It had like 1,000 like why was it upvoted? Why was that a discussion?
I know.
Like, the reason that it was upvoted was like that means that people actually thought this was like a discussion or something.
Yeah.
What's like a 20 ping difference? Like, I can understand if a team is like on 100 ping, you know, or something like.
Sure.
You have an argument like that. The game does feel different. But that was just crazy. Like none of the 100 Thieves players said anything.
No, they didn't. That's also ludicrous, isn't it? None of this came from the players. It was just the fans invented their own narrative, pushed it mega hard, and then it ended up being the most upvoted thing of the week. With all of these big upsets going on and so much stuff happening around the scene, the most upvoted thing was you saying, "Yeah, 100 Thieves just picked the server, guys. It's fine."
It blew my mind, honestly. Like.
We had a theory. Bren had a theory, actually.
My theory is that the kind of the average fan, okay, the casual viewer, they looked at the game, they looked at 100 Thieves losing, and they're like, why did they lose? They can't make sense of it, okay? Maybe just their fundamental understanding of the game, it's not a level where they can break it down analytically round by round by round. So they look at the scoreboard, they see the ping, and in their mind, they're justified when they lose games because of ping, you know, and they're looking for reasons in the rank games, and they're like losing a wide swing, and it's like, oh, it's because this motherfucker had 10 ping, and they're like, this is the reason I'm losing. If 100 Thieves are losing to it, then I'm losing to it in rank games. Like that's my theory. I think they're connecting the lines, and they're like, God, Stu's such a good player. Hiko's such a good player. It has to be the ping, dude. I mean, it happened to me. I went down to silver 3 the other day because of the ping. So it has to be the ping. That's my theory on it. And yeah, I mean, I'm trending towards it. There's no evidence to support it, but I like the speculation.
I can definitely understand that. Honestly, like people are relating it back to their own games or something. Yeah.
What I was going to segue into, not that, but I can't even remember what the hell were we talking about before? There was something that was said, can't remember because it went off the rails, about the last game with 100 Thieves. Oh, it was about teams figuring each other out, the rotation, the teams being in flux is the number one spot. And what comes to mind for me with that is the period of time where earlier in this year, LG just seemed to have your number for a bit. They beat you in the Nerd Street finals in a pretty close BO5, and then they beat you again initially in the first challenger, and then you came back and ran through the bracket to win. And watching those games initially, it seemed like they just had an understanding of where you guys would be positioned on the map. And the way that they countered you was, like, for instance, we know that Dapper wants to take a ramp control on split. So Thief would just find an intuitive timing where he would just expect Dapper to be there, swing, and get the pick on him. And he would do that a few times in a game. But at this point, it seemed to have gone the other direction, where now you had consistently beat LG, at least the past couple times that you had faced off. So what do you make of the rivalry with LG at the moment?
Yeah, they're a really good team. They're really good players, and I think people kind of misunderstood what I said a little while ago about them just taking duels like that. Now they obviously have, like, an understanding and strategies. I thought losing to them was really good for us, actually, because we learned a lot from playing them and losing to them, and the kind of play style they have. They definitely had a good understanding of how we play. Looking back at the Nerd Street Gamers Best of 5 we played, it was a really close series, but I could tell they had a read on us.
Yeah.
But also the way they play was a bit more different than the teams we're playing against. I remember first we had a tough time against Gen.G for some reason. Like, even when we were winning a lot more, Gen.G would give us a hard time, and they were really set on just 5-man brute forcing into sites, and we just couldn't adapt to it. I don't know. Like, it took a while for us to learn how to play against this. And now LG is, like, really good at defaulting and having people contact into sites, like, which is, like, a good way to play. It's like, I relate back to, like, CS, when teams would try to hold on to their utility and play reactive. Like, that's when you just walk in and pop on them. And we learned a lot from playing LG, and, like, this kind of play style, how we need to be more proactive. We need to have more info and not let them get all this space on us and then play like this. So it was a matter of playing them, losing to them, and learning how to play against a team like this. This game's, like, so much about matchups, in my opinion, and there's so many different play styles and different compositions, and you just have to. If you lose, you have to learn how to beat it the next time. Like, that's it.
Sure. It seems like the way you're phrasing it now seems like it's kind of a healthy thing for the game. Like, there's a lot of different play styles. It's something that I really enjoy as well, is that you can have a team that plays, like a Gen.G and an LG. I think that's a really good comparison, that they play so drastically differently in terms of the styles that they play, or even in terms of upcoming teams recently, XSET and LG, where they play very different kind of modes of playing. But when you were talking about it on stream as well, I think there was also some frustration that you didn't want this to be the direction that the game went in as, like, a permanent direction. That there seemed to be some frustration that, like, the entirety of the game is built around tactical utility usage, and yet a very strong strategy is denying that utility to deny information to your opponents. It seems like the way that it's played out over time is that certainly hasn't become the most dominant way of playing the game. There were good ways of being able to counter that. But were you genuinely worried at that period of time when you were talking about it on stream that, like, all the teams might start playing like that and then the game just gets mega boring?
No, I think I was more so frustrated too, and, like, venting a bit, obviously, from the losses. I also realized, like, people kind of misunderstood what I was saying because I sounded so whiny in that clip when I rewatched it. Like, I was like, dude, what am I doing? Like, why do I sound like this? Like, people are not even gonna understand the point, like, when you sound like you're just complaining like a bitch.
Sure.
But I wasn't saying that this was, like, the dominant way to play the game. I more so understood that this is, like, a way to play the game, but I don't think it's a consistent way. I remember reading stuff, people saying, like, to me, like, okay, if you think that this is, like, they're just picking Reyna and just taking these duels, so why can't you do that? Why don't you play like that? I'm saying that it's not good, because I don't think it's consistent if you rely on these, like, individual timings and individual plays. But the way that LG do it is, like, different. That's different. Like, it's not individual timings. Like, when for a set, I'll see, like, your boy Dre with 2 other teammates. They will have Vandals and walk in a B and try to take a duel. But on a Ascent B, like, people play really reactive. Like, a Sova will hold on to his dart for them to hit it and then dart above the site. or like however people play B side on Sent, it's very reactive. Like when a team commits, they're throwing their smokes, they're throwing their flashes, they're not necessarily popping in. So I can understand where LG's coming from with this play, them trying to just duel and trade into the site before the defense gets a chance to react at all. That's good. More so like, when you have like Arena that's just walking through a smoke on cat or walking through a smoke at mid on a Sent that's just trying to take a duel. I feel like that's not a good way to play. But sometimes you can get away with it. Like sometimes it's viable. Like sometimes you will get away with it and you will catch a timing and someone will be on fire and just win their duels. So it's different. I was more so frustrated that it felt like it was more viable than it should be. But like I'm learning more and more to play against it too. Like I kind of regret being so frustrated during that rant.
Do you think that was a natural part of like the learning? It reminded me of like the stages of grief, where the first is anger, or the first is denial, and then it's anger, and then it's acceptance, and you learn how to deal with it and stuff. And it seemed like there was some natural frustration in losing because it was a team that was giving you a lot of trouble that you perceived to be below the ranking. But what you actually did, like what the literal changes that you made in the server were not just you guys going, this is shit, we're gonna keep playing how we're playing and try and like beat them. You actually did adjust to it. Like you made smart adjustments within the matches to be able to beat both LG and Immortals on that lower bracket run that you guys went on. And clearly the thought process was still there. It wasn't like, you didn't continue the denial. You continued to do the classic Sentinels thing, which is to adapt to any opponent that beats you and come back and beat them later on.
Yeah, no, like we obviously are forced to find a way to adjust. Like there has to be a way to beat like every play style, right? So like we took our time to talk about it, talk about how we wanted to default versus two. But like even LG, like on Icebox, for example, I do think some things are bad. Like their default, if they heavy default B, they still have a drone, they send 4 people there to just push back B long control. Like Thief will buy Vandal and just fight A Heaven alone. Like he's the only person there, and he's just looking for duels. And he's got nobody there to follow up with it, nobody there to trade. And it's different from like containing that side of the map. Like when you watch like T1 I just watched yesterday on Icebox, they would heavy default long B, but Spider would contain at A. He would not be swinging A Heaven and looking for duels. He'd be sitting back and like seeing if the other team is going to aggress and try to take map control while they default heavy long B and like try to punish that. And like when the default plays out, and if he wants to lurk up A to take space after they feel like they've caused a rotate with all this pressure at B, that's different than just swinging A Heaven at the start of the round every round and just looking for a duel. Like I don't like you're kind of putting a lot of weight on that duel for the outcome of the round, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's also, we talked to Stanny about that as well when he was talking about shot up playing. And he said it's not something that it's actually not something that Stanny even enjoyed doing, but he said Gumba really wanted that style for shot up playing the Reyna because it's shot up and because he wins a large amount of those duels. Do you think, what's your thought process on like trying to use your players differently based on their player strengths as well? Like not playing an optimal style, like you're clearly playing something that's objectively not as good for most teams, but really leaning into your player strengths. Like we have a guy, loves taking duels, wins the majority of them. Let's craft a strategy where he just takes as many duels as possible, or takes a duel and that influences how we play out the round.
I mean, we do the same thing with Sinatra. Like,
sure.
We sometimes people like, oh, like Sinatra overpeaked this or this, but I don't think I've ever said anything to him about taking like those kind of fights, because I know that's the kind of player, like you let him take these duels and you let him win these fights and take the space, and he's just going to be confident throughout the map. Like he's going to take over, And so sometimes you just have to let that X factor happen too. So I understand where they're coming from too.
Yeah. One of the adjustments that was the most interesting when you came back after that clip and then beat LG was the change on Icebox. I really liked the comp change, which was switching Sinatra to Reyna. I think Reyna's really good on Icebox. And then you also had Dapper switch over to the Sage. And both of those changes were massively influential. Both of those agents are really good on the map. Your A-site hits were really good. Was that a change that you came up with as the leader of the team, or was that like something that individuals were thinking about changing to as well? Like what made that change happen?
I think it was both. Like a lot of our agent compositions are on the individual and what they want to play. Like maybe we think like Brimstone might be better on one map, but Zoms is more comfortable on Omen. Then we're gonna let him play Omen because we want him to be in his comfort zone. The same thing with like Breach on Ascent. Six said that he didn't feel like he was comfortable playing Breach on Ascent anymore, so he switched to Phoenix. And so when it came to Icebox, Dapper felt like Sage had a ton of impact on this map, and we like pretty much agreed. Her wall is so powerful. Like so
Yeah.
many of these rounds are like retake situations constantly, and the wall just gives you an in on that to get into these post plant situations. It was the same thing with Sova switching originally from Sky to Sova. It wasn't necessarily sick. We kind of like said, we think Sova would be way better to get this map control, get these operas off these angles, as well as play post plant with the shock darts and ult. Like his kit just seemed so good for the map. And then Jay on Reyna, I'm trying to remember. I think it was him. We were kind of like, okay, if we're gonna approach the map in this style, that we need someone to W in and kind of take the space. And we were trying that with Raze, with him blast backing in. But Reyna also, her flash is kind of good on this map because it gets everything in the line of sight. And so all these operas taking angles and stuff. Personally, for me, I said like when Arena throws flashes in the sky, it's so annoying because then I can't take all these fights that I take on Icebox. I have to waste that angle or that shot on the flash. Because we talked about like how we wanted to approach Icebox, and we started like originally we played this like brute forcing in the sites and stuff, and then we tried to like default and cause rotations. Kind of realized the way the map is structured is you can take space like at B long or like push back A bit, but there's not a whole lot of map control you can take at mid, in my opinion. You can deny info. You don't necessarily need to send people to deny that info. But also like splitting on this map is kind of tough because the splits you just fall right into their rotates. And the way teams were playing it, we felt like they were playing so like floaty. They're like rotating to this side, and but they're still playing retake. We figured we just need to like brute force in these sides and have a comp that we can play the post plants. That we can take the space and then play the post plants. And it seems really basic, but it just works with the way the map is being played right now. In my opinion.
Yeah. How much of Icebox do you think is gonna change in the future? To me, I understand everything you're saying right now, and I think that makes a lot of sense. The ideas that you've come up with too. It still feels to me like mid is still extremely underutilized by a lot of teams, and the teams that have started using mid a little more, actually like Envy recently too, but. I mean, Gen.G's maybe a poor example because they haven't had that much success with it. They had some early success and then got red pretty heavily. But anyway, my overarching point is that a lot of teams have started using the idea that a Sova drone is just going to push out B green anyway, just on its own, because you don't want to contest that because there's normally people behind it. To start running like 1-3-1 defaults where you've got 3 players pretty heavily in mid to drag the defenders over to there at the beginning. And it seems like that ends up freeing up the sights a bit more towards the latter end of your attacking half. And it still seems like there's a lot of Icebox to be explored from a strategic point of view. How solved do you think the map is compared to the other maps? In fact, actually, an overarching question once you're done with that as well. How solved do you think any of the maps are?
No, I agree with you. Middle on Icebox is really underused right now. I know Immortals has like a default where their Silva will like do a pre-shock dart for the end of the tube.
Yeah.
To get out like an alarm bot, and then I think it's like their Omen and I forgot who else, Rainer or someone will walk up the tube and they'll try to take space there. And it doesn't seem like they have a necessary goal in mind with those two agents taking that space. Like it's not a set split or anything. It looks like a default where they'll decide when they have this is like these two can cut off the rotates, and now we can hit a site and have a way easier time. So I like their approach to it. But it just seemed difficult. I don't know. We couldn't pull it off. Like, and we were watching other teams that were having success on Icebox, and like it seemed like very basic that they were forcing into sites. I don't know if that's people still trying to figure out how to play the map. I'm sure it is, but also the way the map is structured is a little weird.
It is.
I
It
mean, I
is.
still love Icebox though. I love this map. I have a lot of fun playing it. Um, and then for your question about the other maps is, uh, it's tough. Like I think people are figuring out their best options with certain comps, but as we add more agents, maybe it'll change. Maybe the way people play the pacings around will change.
Right.
Um, I still think there's so much more to learn.
Yeah.
For sure though.
Valorant's an interesting game because it's meta, at least at the rate that they're adding these new agents, the meta is always going to be up in flux, or at least the potential for it to be.
Yeah.
Because it messes with the whole compositions, and then that changes how teams are going to be playing each map as well. Which leads us into the newest agent that's been announced, which is Astra. And some people have got some strong opinions about Astra in terms of how good she's going to be. I know there's some players out there. Boaster put out a video of like his thoughts on how to play this character.
Yeah, that
seems
was a
like
cool
seems like
video.
it's an agent that was made for Boaster. You know, like the way he likes to play. But in your case, I mean, you're mainly sticking to the Jett these days, and Astra does not seem like that kind of. She's definitely like an overarching, kind of like pulling the strings almost kind of agent. But what do you make of Astra as? Have you got to play her at all? Did they? I know they did a preview of some content creators.
Yeah, they let one player from each team, and Zoms really wanted to be the one to play it. So I have not played her yet, but I kind of like the approach with it. I think she's pretty creative. Um, but to be honest, I don't know who's gonna play her. I know that Sick loves experimenting with like different agents and stuff. So he already said that like he wants to try playing her out. I feel like she would be good on like a map like Bind. But it's tough to say like until you actually see how it works
Of
when
course,
you're
yeah.
in the server, because like you see certain agents get released like Sky, her kit seemed insane and you can make it viable, but then how fluid is it when you actually play with her? Like because we tried Sky on Split, then eventually we decided never mind. We tried her in a set, and then eventually decided it wasn't working out. Um, but I'm interested to see like how teams utilize her.
I'm still wondering whether or not she's going to be viable in single smoker compositions, or whether you're going to have to run her with like another Omen or Brim to be able to maximize her value. A little how Viper is played right now. It seems like if you play her in a solo smoker comp, you're going to have to really be using a lot of those stars to provide cover for your team, and it's going to limit the agent quite a lot, I think, in terms of the creative stuff you can do. But it might be mega viable because you can use those like 1 second smokes and it still get the star back, and maybe on certain maps where you don't need to smoke off areas as much, she's even more viable. I don't know. She's so complex because she has so many different things that you can do with her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, go on.
I definitely agree. I think that if we experimented, we would still run her with like a smoke character with them.
Right.
Something.
Yeah. I mean, I think what's interesting about her and talking to you is that she seems like the antithesis of what you would play as an in-game leader, which is very odd because typically, like, what you're seeing other IGLs, they're all excited posting about this, like Angel and Boaster, etc. Right? Because you're playing a top-down RTS and you're leading the team, but you're one of the only in-game leaders, especially on a top team, that is actually playing a duelist. And at the moment, you're playing exclusively Jett. So I guess my question would be, how are you able to manage that? And you still frag. Like, that's very uncommon. So, like, basically just how do you manage being able to pull off both things?
It's really challenging. Like sometimes I do feel like I wish I could just stare at my crosshair more and be a bit more selfish, like a Jett opper would be. Because I was an opper in my whole CS career, and like using the expensive gun, you had to be a bit selfish. You had to take like fights and have impact. And I realized that taking up both these roles in this game, I have to be like way more selfless, and sometimes just forfeit what I want to do to set people up. It's not necessarily that I think IGLing as Jett is the best thing to do. It's just that the way it worked out, like I was an opper and I felt comfortable playing Jett, and I couldn't see anyone else that wanted to do it. As well as just IGLing, I always felt comfortable being the second voice on my teams, and I feel like it was like a natural progression for my career to take it over because I played with like every IGL in CS:GO. I played with Sean Garris for like 3 years. I played with Stanislaw, played with Daze, I played with Steel, played with Daps. I played with like a ton of different IGLs. So I felt like that I would be comfortable taking that over, and that we wouldn't have to sacrifice how we wanted to run the compositions and stuff, and demand like playing a Sentinel or something.
Who of those IGLs from CS do you think you learnt the most from, and also are most similar to?
Sean Garris for sure. He was by far one of my most favorite teammates to play with, and we played together for almost like 3 years in total on different teams. And like from the very start of my pro career, he was the one that picked me up on Cloud9 when I first went pro in CS, and I just like learned so much about like TAC FPS and understanding, and it wasn't just what happens in the server, but also about like being a leader and how to prep for matches and how to approach a tournament and practices and stuff. I feel like it was just a really valuable experience playing with him and learning a lot. Um, but I also told the guys like I'm not limited to just playing Jett. I was actually playing like more Breach originally too. It's just that right now I feel like Jett and opping is still really powerful. And as long as I feel like it can have an impact, like I'll do it. But if Jett gets nerfed, if you know the meta changes, then I'm just as comfortable switching to like playing an agent like Astra. You know, that's why like I miss playing Vine. Is honestly I miss playing Sova. Sometimes playing Jett over and over and over. It's boring too.
Yeah, I was when you guys were having that period of time where you were kind of struggling on Ascent, figuring out what to do. Where Sick was playing Breach for a bit. I was just thinking about every time we would talk about your team. I was always thinking about putting you back on Breach because I thought that your Breach was very good. But one of the things that I wanted to touch on was what you just said previously. It's kind of funny because you said in CS, you know, you're buying the op, it's the expensive gun, you need to find value with it and focus on your crosshair. In Valorant, it's even more expensive, and you're buying it, and you're in-game leading, which also ties into part of what you were talking about in the rant on your stream, is you were talking about the op changes, and that they had, you know, months ago they had nerfed the op, increased the price, made it so the movement with it, it's harder to op aggressively, essentially, with the movement changes. At this point, do you think that that was too much of a nerf? Should they bring the op back to a lower price? Should they maybe change the movement where it's a bit easier to peak aggressively again? What are your feelings on it right now?
Yeah, I think it was way too much. Maybe I've got some bias, but the delay when you like take a step in counter strafe and be able to shoot is really bad. Like I like that they added the landing accuracy delay to stop like all the jump peeking and stuff. That was really good. I like that when CS added that too. Um, but I think that they like nerfed it in every angle possible. Um, and it made it difficult because I would like to see the op viable on other agents, like not just Jett. I would like to see like a Sova be able to pick up an op and like counter away a team is defaulting his bomb site or something. But right now the op feels so clunky that you kind of like have to play Jett to like have an impact with it. If you want to take a peek, like that delay to be accurate after taking a counter strafe or taking a peek is really annoying to play with. At least coming from a CS:GO offer. So I wish they would experiment it with it more.
What would your solution be to this situation then? Do you have an idea in mind of what you would like to see change specifically?
I think they should get rid of that accuracy delay, or the movement accuracy delay, so you can actually like take a peek or take an angle. Because if like Phantom or a Vandal is like posted on you, I feel like it's very difficult to get that peek off now. To be able to get the shot off in time, because that versus a good player, they're gonna kill you. I think that they should add a scope sound, and while reverting that, they should add a scope sound so that you don't have people like, you know, just lurking up, and like it's a good tell. It's
yeah, there was a one
thought it was
moment in the TSM match the other day
Yeah.
Well, you had Wardell was playing underneath the rafters on Icebox A, just in a smoke, just like repeatedly scoping in, scoping out, scoping in, scoping out, and they had no idea.
He was in a Sage slow as well.
Yeah, he was in a Sage slow, and he was just waiting like a fucking predator, just stalking his prey, waiting for somebody to cross his angle. But like, yeah, like a scoping sound would be a good addition just to prevent stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. And then I think make it a little bit cheaper again.
Mhm.
It's so expensive.
Yeah.
It's tough. Like you have to usually you're sacrificing no armor, and then you can do that as Jett because you can dash away. But like another character, it's hard to pull out the op and then have like your abilities or armor. I think that it should be changed a bit.
Yeah, I would be in favor of all of those changes, but I'd also like to see a nerf to the Jett dash as well, where you can't like dash as quickly after you scope out or something like that, so that it's in line with, you know, when like Razes try to blast pack away and there's that awkward moment where they have to get out of the gun and then press Q and they're like so much more vulnerable than a Jett would be. That I think is what I'd, or when the Reyna has to actually kill someone in order to dismiss away. So all of these other agents have ways that they can get out, but it's much riskier or harder or clunkier to be able to do. And I really feel like that is a necessary component at the moment to buffing the op again, is because otherwise I feel like it's just going to be Jett oppers all over again, and it's just going to be more powerful, but you're not going to get the diversity in terms of agent usage, I think, unless you do something specific with the Jett dash.
I agree. I originally thought that maybe having it so you can only dash in the direction you're facing. So that if you're in some random off angle in the open, like you have to turn and then dash.
Mm.
And then that makes you like take angles where you're undercover or something, like after you take a shot, and then you can dash away to like a different spot to get away and like play the main advantage. Also like being able to dash in the direction you're facing is like it'll be more so that you're creating space for your team on attack than actually just taking duels and getting a free opportunity.
Sure.
Maybe that's a good fix. I don't know. They obviously, if they make it cheaper, they have to do something so it doesn't just become double ops on every defense side.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The other component of this as well, when it comes to the op nerfs and like how it deals with contacting and the contacting playstyle in general, how much do you think LAN gameplay is going to play into this too? Because it seems like, theoretically, once things get to LAN, being able to actually hold an angle against people who are kind of slow walking up to you and then getting the jump on you is going to be more viable. Or just generally speaking, being able to hold areas should be a little easier, I think, with the zero ping LAN game. But I've also never played on LAN when it comes to CS. So what are your thoughts when it comes to that, as like what should change in terms of or what would change in terms of the rifling, considering we're playing online right now? What do you think is more viable because we're in the online era?
It feels like wide swinging is always the play in this game. It's tough. Like even as an opera, sometimes someone with a rifle will just swing around a corner, and even though I know they're gonna swing and I've got my crosshair placed pretty wide for it, they just appear so fast
Yeah.
that I just get deleted. Like I don't even have a chance to react. Sometimes it's crazy online. I'm hoping it's gonna be easier on LAN, but I also think in this game, it's this is my theory, I guess, or like my opinion is that the models are really skinny. And like I know that when I was opping in CS:GO, like you're holding an angle or a corner or whatever, and you would react off like seeing the shoulder
Right.
of the enemy's model before like they fully peaked or whatever. But in this game, like you don't really see their shoulder coming out. They're like stick figures. Like you see the whole model just peek out, and then they
Yeah.
just bop you. Like you don't stand a chance sometimes with the wide swinging. So
Riot
even
needs to feed their agents a bit more. Get some fat models in there.
So something I don't know. It's just tough. Like it's not just opping. It's rifling. Like holding angles. And CS, I feel like you could hold like a normal angle, like an expected angle, like a common angle, and you can get away even online holding this angle and multi-frag or get kills. But in this game, I feel like everyone is playing off angles. Like it's all about playing off angles. Like you can't play an angle that's like a predictable corner or something because it feels like you'll just lose that fight. And so
Yeah.
when I watch these games, everyone's playing off angles to like counteract this like advantage of wide swinging.
Is that because the
I'm excited.
acceleration is also faster in this game, or is that wrong? Like it feels like people accelerate and decelerate quicker, even though the movement
think
might be
they
a little
do.
slower.
I mean,
100%.
Yeah, the deceleration is right, at least, because I know it's like the muscle memory of counter strafing, which Mike had some weird explanation the other night, but the way I always understood it was that you were canceling out your movement.
Yeah,
So you could reset your accuracy faster.
Yeah.
Which you don't really need to do in this game.
Yeah, like so in CS there's a little bit of a glide, so you need to counter strafe to like stop that glide. But in this game, I'll see people peek. This is the most frustrating thing as an operator is like they'll swing an angle and it looks like they're counter strafing, but they actually take a step in the other direction so fast. Like that you overflick. Like you shoot where he was swinging, but he's so quick to move. Like it's such a small thing that's like really frustrating. That experience is like they'll swing and like you'll shoot where they're swinging to, but they counter strafe so fast they move in the other direction. Like just it looks really weird on the model too. It's so difficult to describe. Maybe I need to like make a clip of this. But like that was like something new in this game compared to CS. Like opping, I was like, okay, I gotta take like a little bit extra time to take a shot and like wait for this. Like the characters are really quick to switch movement on the other sides.
I want to talk about coaching in Valorant, because you guys are one of the only teams at the top level that kind of like, I suppose, play around. Now, you might be trialing people behind the scenes that we don't know about, but in terms of a concept, at least from the game that a lot of us come from, being Overwatch, the coaching structure is a massively important, fundamental piece of a team to ensure that they are successful, because there's so many things to consider. The rosters are so big, it's got to that point. But in this game, it's so early on that, I mean, you guys are having a ton of success. I think it's not a case of like never getting a coach, but in my mind, it's a case of just when. So that's the question for me is, when do you feel, especially as an IGL, I think you've got probably an interesting take on this. What is the turning point in Valorant's ecosystem for you in a timeline for when maybe a coach is necessary?
We've been like actively looking for a coach this year.
Yeah.
Too. It's definitely not easy. There's the thing of like, you know, we have been finding success without one. Like we want to make sure we don't ruin that or like don't fix what's not broken, I guess,
yeah, of
too.
course.
But I think that like as soon as the game does add like a coaching feature in the game itself, then it'll make a lot more sense too. Because right now the optics of it is a little like difficult when you have to like Discord stream your POV, or when you're in a match and they have to watch a stream rather than watching what's happening live. Like it's not that we like, even last year during the Ignition series, you know, we were trying to get Sean Garris because, you know, I would have loved to have him as a coach, but it didn't work out in the end because of like time schedules and the other like opportunities he was pursuing. And so like this year we have been like reaching out to people and talking to people and trying to figure out like, it's not that I necessarily want someone with a crazy resume or someone that's going to come in and take over the roster and say like, you know, this is our practice schedule, you're going to do this, and like be hard on people. I really want someone that's like more of a student of the game, someone that's going to help me with like the strategic side of things and you know, implementing more gimmick plays and stuff that they see like other regions and other teams, and just try to change up the play style we have. You know, we play really defaulty right now, but I think adding some more gimmicky plays and a little bit more set stuff to cheese some kills and maybe get around off of that. So it's like a work in progress. But yeah, it's tough. Like you don't know the kind of impact a coach has in this game just yet.
Of course, yeah.
Because, you know,
Hard to
like
tell.
Always
I
a risk. I was just gonna say,
yeah.
there's always a risk that when you bring in somebody who you might know from CS, and they might carry with them some of the same problems that some of the CS problems or some of the CS players have when they're transitioning over, which is like too stuck in their ways almost in terms of not thinking about the game.
Sure.
I think you bring up an excellent point about having somebody who is a student of the game who's willing to just absorb information, and because the game's still early on in its lifespan. It's so early.
I think it's important to say in Overwatch as well that the greatest coaches only started coaching 2 years into the game, to be honest.
Yep.
Like a year, and they started on like their opening teams, and they looked like they were having some success, and then they developed, and they've only become like, coaching has only become like an elite level thing. Like there's multiple elite level coaches in Overwatch League in 2020, like 4 years into the game. And okay, Overwatch is more unique than Valorant is, because Valorant has the CS backing to be able to take some of the concepts from, for sure. But there's still so much that goes on in this game that's totally different to CS, that you can't just plug and play in that sense. And also CS doesn't even have the largest coaching infrastructure in the world in terms of like every team having a coach and they being mega successful and that kind of stuff. And most of the time the coaches seem to be helpful to the team rather than running the team, which is a very different dynamic to some of the other regions. And it does seem to be very split in this game as well. Envy have just gone on a ridiculous run while coachless, having previously been trialing coaches and failing for a while. So that's like, yeah, there's so much that's going on at the moment in Valorant. But one point that I wanted to get to as well is that it seems like you're doing a huge amount for the team. Like you are streaming regularly, you are IGLing, you are counter-stratting opponents, you are jet AWPing. You are, like, there's so much there that the responsibility falls on your shoulders for. Is that just the view from the outside? Is there actually more of a democratic feel within the team, or is that accurate? And if it is accurate, then how the fuck are you not burning yourself out?
I mean, to an extent, it is like Sentinels. Like our manager reached out, definitely like he wanted us to get at least an analyst. He knows like I'm doing a ton of like prep work too.
Yeah.
But I actually enjoy it. Like I enjoy watching the teams and like waking up early before a match and like taking notes, or the night before and staying up. Like I just watching the games too. So when I go through like a team's VODs and watch like their maps, certain maps, and how they play, like I feel like I'm learning too. And like that's the thing about this game, is like I really enjoy the tactical aspect of it and how teams play differently. So I don't want to step away from it, but it would be nice to have an analyst too to help. So we're exploring that just for the prep side of things.
Right.
Yeah, I've definitely like people are definitely concerned about me like burning myself out and stuff, but I don't think I'm at that point yet because I'm just having fun with what I'm doing.
Right.
When it comes to IGLing and like the practices and stuff, I think that with this team, we're really good at using like, we've got 5 different minds in the server, and we're really good at using and taking input from everyone. And when it comes to how we want to approach certain maps or how we should adapt, people aren't afraid to be vocal or give their input. And obviously there's some sort of hierarchy where like I'm the IGL, and it's me and Dapper that usually like lead the discussions. Mike is pretty much like the second voice in the team, and he helps me a ton when it comes to like tackling what we need to work on, where issues are, because obviously I can't always see everything that's happening.
Yeah.
And like sometimes even if I'm there in the moment or whatever, I just like it's hard to visualize or understand what's going wrong, and then he's like that second voice that explains like, this is what we really need to work on, this is what we need to do, or maybe we should approach it like this. So we kind of bounce back and forth off each other. And so he's like an integral part of our team and how we run things as well. Like, yeah, he just helps me a ton. Like it's me and him a lot. As well as like, if even Zom's, if he doesn't like the way we're defaulting, or he thinks that we should do it like this, like he'll tell me on the side, like, I watch Liquid do a default like this, or I watch LG do it like this. Maybe we should try this. So it is like a very, very much so a team effort. And so I feel like they help me a lot when it comes to IGL side of things, because it is my first time IGLing. And like I'm not afraid to like, ask my team for help or answers too. And then outside of that, I don't know, I just enjoy playing Valorant. So I like practicing, I like streaming. It's fun.
Yeah. I imagine it's easier. I imagine it's easier now while you're winning as well, right? Like a lot of teams when they're winning, they find it like a lot of fun, because you always have that belief that you're just going to be able to bounce back to the top even when you do lose a game, and everything seems like it's working. And it feels like for some teams, like when they slip a little bit, that's when it becomes more like work and less like play.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's definitely like I'm not gonna pretend like it doesn't help. Um, but like even in CS, I was the same way. Like I'd practice all day, and then I
Right.
like playing FPL all night and streaming. Um, I think it's also smart for any like pro player to like take advantage of their opportunities. Um, your esports career is one thing also, but like building your brand and stuff is good. Not just for like your future, but your contracts and stuff. It's important. Like you don't want to look back and regret not streaming or not doing this because like there's
Mm.
2 years of my CS career where I just focused on competing and we are traveling a ton. I realized like I see all these people with like way more interactions and way more opportunities, and I realized like maybe I should do the same thing. I
Yeah.
should like capitalize on this opportunity, this time in my life, um, to stream, to build a brand,
Yeah.
to do these things on top of competing.
Yeah, for sure. I have a question about your in-game leading and the ShahZaM documents, the text files. Just how many pages of notes do you have on each team in those hidden documents on your desktop?
Oh my god, my desktops. Dude, I have so many now. I don't know how to count because every time we play a team, I like to rewatch like the things they do.
Uh-huh.
Teams are constantly changing, they're evolving, they're changing their comps. So just every match, I always prepare. It doesn't matter if it's like a team we think is worse. I'll still watch their games if they have odds. Um,
Yeah.
I just don't like to underestimate anyone.
What's a day in the life of ShahZaM look like when it comes to this kind of prep work? Because you said like you like waking up early, like staying up late, watching these teams. But I mean, we're talking so much about your responsibilities, but what does that look like on a day-to-day basis for you?
It depends. If we have an early match, I'll just do the prep the night before, and like
Yeah.
so I get good sleep. Obviously, like this is like a performance sport. Like sleep is the most important thing.
Yeah.
I feel like players are still learning this. Like get good sleep. Like your performance is directly impacted by that. Um, uh, but yeah, I just break down the veto. I talk to my team like this is the map that we're gonna pick. This is what they're probably gonna pick. This is what we should expect the veto to look like. Um, I'm gonna watch these maps and like make a game plan.
Hmm.
So whether it's the night before or before the match or like in the morning or something, I'll watch their games. I'll like see what they like to do, what their tendencies are, and then in my head have an idea for like the way I'm calling. The notes aren't really for my teammates. Like I used to just post them in our like team Discord if anyone wanted to look over them, but I realized that some people are different. Like some people like looking at them, some people don't because they feel like it affects how they play when they're thinking about how other teams play, rather than sticking to like what they know and what they're comfortable with. Um, so it's mostly just for me, like when I'm calling, to like recognize tendencies. Like if I see like, I remember playing 100 Thieves on Haven, and I like Nitro ulted, and we were on attack, and I immediately knew from watching that he's gonna ult and T spawn, and I started pinging in. I was like, Dapper, he's gonna be T spawn, he's gonna be T spawn. Um, this was when we played him during JBL, I think, or maybe first strike. I don't remember. I was like, dude, he's gonna be T spawn. He's gonna be T spawn. Like I know for sure because every time he did it, he ulted and T spawn to try to flank on these post plants. And then like Dapper was able to use that timing to flank two and kill them in like one round. And like so that one tendency can earn us around. Like it's worth it. It was worth that time putting in
Yeah.
to study. Remember we played T1 on Haven, and every time Scoodoodle had an op, he would peek sewer. Like that's a tendency. Like if he's gonna do it every time, like I'm gonna make him not want to do it. So the first round he could afford an op. I had Zoms Omen pre-flash him while I dashed across A lobby and just killed him while he was blind. And for the rest of the half, Scoodoodle was afraid to peek sewer.
Yeah.
I put him out of his comfort zone because he knew when I did that I know what he's gonna do, and now he can't do what he's comfortable doing.
Yeah.
So it's just stuff like that that I like to get in the other team's head and like let them know that like you can't get away with the stuff you're doing because I know what you're gonna do.
I had another question which might seem unrelated at the moment, but I really wanted to hit on it, and we skipped over this topic when we were talking about your stream discussion previously about the whole contact style as well. Because one of the major things that you brought up was the strength of duelists at the moment in Valorant, and the fact that Sentinels have recently been nerfed. A lot of the North American scene is playing double duelist. Some teams were playing triple duelist back in first, right? Like TSM and FaZe, God bless them, whatever they're up to. And so I wanted to hit on this topic again because it's one that I think is really, really interesting because I don't have this opinion, and I think there's like whole scenes that don't have this opinion, but it's incredibly prevalent within North American. The concept of how North American Valorant thinks about the game is that duelists are really powerful, like getting in people's face and being able to close the gap with like Rays and with Phoenix Flashes and with Jet Dash and stuff like that is mega powerful at the moment. But then you look over the pond at Europe, and the top European team right now, which in my opinion is NIP, but I suppose that's up for debate, are playing 0 duelists on a lot of their maps, and only sometimes adding a raise in there and getting a lot of value out of that way. Obviously, there's big stylistic differences, but for North America to play like this, a lot of the North American teams must truly believe that that style is just better. Because if you didn't believe that, why would you play that? So, what's your thought process on this? And can you kind of walk me through the what you were talking about on stream, where you were saying that you think duelists are maybe a little overpowered right now because of the Sentinel nerf, etc.?
Yeah. Like when we originally played Ascent and we were like dominating Ascent, a Sentinels meme or whatever, we ran 0 duelists while every other team was running duelists. And then eventually teams started to adjust the way we were playing and we realized, okay, like we need to start taking advantage of these duelists. Like Phoenix right now, his ultimate I feel like is so powerful, and it's only 6 orbs, and it's so easy to just farm these orbs. Like there's so many times we're grabbing both orbs for stick, just so he can keep getting his ult. Get him plants, let him lead, let him get the eco frags, so he can just keep getting his ult, That's like when I watched Envy on Icebox. They run Phoenix.
Yeah.
I feel like Phoenix's kit is tactically terrible, in my opinion, for Icebox. But the orbs are so free for the attackers that they just kept getting his ult. And like a free body scaling onto the site, like you can just get in their faces, you can make the space, you can get the kills and like win their round. Would I like to see more tactical, like I know it's working in Europe, but for some reason, like this is what works for us. Like this is what's working in NA. Like this is how the teams are playing. Teams are playing really aggressive. Like having these duelists on defense too. Like teams are really proactive. Like they're fighting. They're contesting some part of the map. They're using the duelist, the kit, to try to get these early main advantages, to get these early kills. It's not that like we're looking at exactly what category the agents are. We're just looking at what works best with the way we're playing the map, or the way people are playing and how to counter it. Whether it's running 2, 3 duelists or no duelists. We're just looking at how teams play and how we can play against that. I'm interested to see how it shifts when we start playing internationally against like European teams and stuff, because I can see like the stuff like teams are doing and what they're thinking behind it and how they're trying to cause rotations. But you never know until you play against it too, and then you rewatch it and you understand
absolutely.
like how this affected their round, like what they did, how did it cause us to rotate, like how did this character create space and cause us to rotate, and like should we try to do something like that? But right now this is like what works for us.
I mean, to give you an example from Europe right now, Phoenix is essentially never been played in Europe. I mean, the people think he's shite. They really do. And I think it kind of tracks with what you're saying as well. He's tactically not that great for certain maps, and yet can still be mega viable if you play around his ultimate massively. But it's also a different pace of the game that you have to play when you have a Phoenix on your team. And a lot of the Polish teams have recently started playing with Phoenix in Europe. And one of the teams made a really deep run in a tournament and nearly beat Heretics, the winners of First Strike. And when you look over the VOD, they are just speeding towards them full pace. It's way faster than North America is currently playing at the moment, but it gives me vibes of like old North America, back when everyone was running Phoenix Jett and they were just running around maps, like almost before people were even playing Sova in NA, when people were just really playing like hyper fast. And it caught Heretics off guard massively. There was also some other drama about that game, about them potentially having wall hacks and stuff, but I think that was just them being salty, to be honest. So I think it's really interesting to theorize how these styles might match up. And there's like glimmers of different teams running the styles of different regions within other regions as well. What do you think when you intuitively think about compositions that have, say, like your former Ascent composition, and then teams that have, you know, a Phoenix and a Jett or something like that, what do you think is the thing you struggle with most when you have those heavy utility agents dealing with the Phoenix and the Jett? Is it just like preempting the fact that they're going to be pushing into you? Like you have to use the utility to kind of stop them almost before they're in your face?
Yeah, it's like the pacing of the rounds. It's like if you're playing like no duelists and you're playing against all these duelists, like you have to use your utility to deny them these early kills, to deny them these aggressive plays. So you have to play slow. You have to like default. You have to stop like them from getting away with what they want to do. But then like the round breaks down and timings and like your utility is limited when you do finish at a bomb site. Uh, it just we felt like we started defaulting way too. We started playing really slow. Like T1 was like notoriously playing like really slow or trying to deny like
Yeah.
extremities, deny like their A main info, their B main info, whatever. And then we're trying the rounds breaking down slowly and we're trying to do a split or hit a side and you know, eventually they learn like, okay, they're just gonna sit back and like react off like a side hit. Like they're just gonna wait. Like if you're gonna play slow and then group up and hit a site, like it's you didn't really cause a rotate. You didn't really cause anything to happen. Um, it's then we realized, okay, so maybe we need characters that are gonna help us actually get into the site and make space.
Yeah.
Because you have these characters that can like set up if you have too many people in the back, like Sova darting, stunning, smoking, flashing, and you have no one actually taking advantage of that space being made, then it's kind of pointless.
Yeah. It is extremely weird to watch NIP and they have their Omen and their Sage entry and sometimes their Sova, and like it's truly ridiculous. Like they run the Vision Strikers play on defense of Ascent where you like flash and dash down mid, but they have no duelists, so they just have their Sova run down mid into tiles with the breach flash, and it's ludicrous to watch. It really is. But it's so interesting because they're actually making it work. And I don't know whether it's going to work against other regions. I just don't. Like, I feel like it's going to be somewhat viable, but it's so far in one direction compared to the other regions that it's impossible to think about. But I think it's very interesting in terms of the balance of the game. And something that you had brought up when you were talking on stream was this idea of duelists having a lot of still utility to play with and always being able to get value consistently from their kits, whereas others are quite situational. And with the recent like nerfs to Killjoy, where she can only play within a certain radius, and some of the Cypher nerfs as well, it seems like the game is maybe trending away from that kind of style where it's, you know, mega static and you can always find information just passively from having these bits and bobs scattered around the map.
Yeah, I agree. Like that point you brought up with NIP is like that's the one thing we had was that originally when we were in no duelist on Ascent, we had Sick running in Sage. Like he was literally entering Sage.
Yeah.
He's running in, making space. And then when he switched to Breach and I switched to Jett and I was opping, where we realized like, okay, I'm sitting there posted on an angle. Now he's like stunning or flashing and nobody's running in. Like we're not taking the space. And then I realized, okay, that's why I started like I don't op on attack. Like I just rifle for the most part on attack. Like now I'm the one that has to run in and take the space, like, you know, dash or no smoke or just take advantage of the utility. And now he's back on Phoenix, and once again he's the one running in. And now I can pick up the op and like punish, you know, like the duelist fighting backsiders. So it's funny how like sometimes you don't even realize what you have going for you, I guess, until like you switch in and then you realize, okay, like we needed the stage that was running in, like we needed someone to take that space.
Yeah.
But that's the thing also is like there's no right way to play this game, which is really cool to me. I just want to see how all these playstyles match up. Like within NA, teams are so unique too. You can make different comps work. I feel like you can make 2 duelists, 3 duelists even maybe work, and you can find a way to like make it consistent to an extent. It's just how you play with them, you know?
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of an inevitable line of discussion that we always end up on. But given the circumstances of this game as an esport, there's no international competition. So we will be endlessly speculating until there is. But there was just announced now today that Masters 2 will be an in-person event in Iceland. There are going to be 10 teams there, 10 international teams. We're finally going to have international competition.
Sooner than expected as well.
Yeah,
way
definitely.
sooner.
Way sooner than expected.
So you guys will actually, you're one of the teams that, you're at the top of NA. You will have an opportunity potentially if you qualify to play against international teams. Like you had mentioned earlier that Zoms would say like whatever, he took a default from Liquid. So like I'm assuming to some extent you're aware of the teams from other regions and how they're playing. And this is something I think as well that some of the viewers, we had the viewer questions. People had posted their interest in hearing you basically give your take on what teams from other regions or what other regions are you excited to play against, or are there any teams or matchups that maybe you're worried, like teams that you think are very skilled that you'd be, I think in the viewer's phrase, intimidated to play? I don't think you strike me as a team that would be intimidated to play anyone, to be honest, but at least teams that you think will be a good match.
The big one for me is Vision Strikers. They're like by far the most creative team. And like in NA when we play against teams with a lot of set plays, I feel like it's really telegraphed. When we play against like Inbox or Exit, I feel like we always have an easy time because we know like what's coming. They kind of lay it out for us. But Vision Strikers, I feel like has it like on a whole different level. So that's like the one team that I really want to see how we would match up against too. Outside that, the European teams, G2, Liquid, Heretics, they're all really good teams. Like I know some people say like, oh, NA is way stronger, more competitive. Like I don't know. Like I honestly don't know. I think that the top EU teams could be top NA teams too.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing. This is we always end up here, and it's always so speculative. But yeah, I mean, when we finally get, I suppose when we finally get to Masters 2, that question will definitely be answered. But looking ahead now, I mean, do we want to touch on anything more with this international tournament? Or do we kind of want to get to Challengers 3 because we're still yet to even complete Masters 1?
Yeah. I don't know. Did Bren have a question?
I was just going to say it's pretty sick. The storylines we're going to have leading up to the LAN.
Oh yeah,
it's all building. Now that we've actually got a date, it's like it's all the speculation, sure, but the closer it gets to it, the more the anticipation is going to build for finally seeing these international teams compete. And we're going to have like a good idea and concept of like the play styles leading up to it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I was going to transition it into the concept of kind of running it back to a topic or question that I believe somebody wanted to ask, which is the concept of 6-man rosters in a game like Valorant, which we've asked a couple of people. I mean, we're going completely left wing here, but the concept of 6-man rosters in a game like Counter-Strike, as far as I'm aware, the few times it was done, it was to kind of prevent burnout and almost done like, or not really thought about. It's not like you've got to master an agent or a hero. But in this game, there is going to reach a point where the amount of agents that are in the game is going to be immense, more so than people can probably handle on a 5-man roster. As we found out in Overwatch, early on, it was 6-man rosters because the game is played 6v6. But with the advent of the Overwatch League, kind of got forced into teams actually picking up more players as well, because I think there was a minimum roster of 8 players at a time when the Overwatch League came about.
No, I don't think it was at the beginning. I think it was 6 at the beginning, but then it transitioned to 8.
Right.
But anyway.
Yeah. Besides the point, like a game like Overwatch is understandable, but this game, Valorant, they are releasing agents at a rapid rate. And it is going to reach a point where there is going to be almost, not a necessity, but you're going to start to see the idea come up in teams' heads. I mean, it already is, but I would argue that the cases where teams have 6-man rosters, it's more because of behind the scenes kind of, I don't know,
a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like that with C9, but Heretics do have a 6-man roster, and their coach wanted a 6-man roster. They just decided to do
That's
it
a good point.
They just decided to do it early because there was such a good player available. But there are good players always becoming available, because it seems like a lot of tier 1, tier 2 players are constantly making this transition over from CS and like blossoming out of the natural Valorant scene as well. So it's always possible that you could make a 6-man roster. It's about properly utilizing it or picking the timing of when you think it's useful, if indeed you think it's useful at any point in the future.
So to give you a question to answer, Shahz, instead of just rambling, is Do you feel like this is viable at the moment, or is it a bit of time waiting? Is this a thought that's crossed your mind as an IGL? You've ever thought about a composition you really want to run, but you've been limited in some aspect to it? Like, at what point is that turning point going to happen in the history of like Valorant esports?
I don't think right now.
Yeah.
Maybe with other teams, this might have been like something that they talked about, but for us, like people are so flexible with the agents they play. Is like we don't mind playing one scrim with a certain composition, and then if we think like okay, this might work better, then going in the next scrim and trying a different agent. Um, we're always experimenting. We're always trying different comps and messing around with what we want to play. I could see it happening in the future because they're adding it like a ton of agents now.
Yeah.
And it gets more and more complicated. Like right now, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Like C9 is like do their 6-man plays the same agent as like another one, but on different maps. And it just didn't make any sense to me watching the game. Like, do you think like is boys just sitting there watching like them lose a match and thinking like, you know, like let me play? Like, should I be playing on this map?
He's
I
learning
just
from Mitch and Zeta. He's their understudy.
I'm not. I don't know. I'm not going to go on a ramble. I don't know what the idea is there, though.
The whole logistics of that makes no sense to me when it comes to like C9's case.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like in the future, like, you know, someone just feels comfortable on certain agents and they want to stick to that or whatever, and there's more and more that added to the pool, and like what if there's like agent bans or something?
Yes, yeah, that could be a thing.
Then I can understand like the game progressing to that point. It's still like such a foreign concept to me because in CS like it's not the norm. It never was. But you didn't have like the roles as laid out as they are in this game.
Yeah, for sure.
You said that I think last question before we transition into some bigger, you know, maybe get you to do some predictions on Masters or something, but I wanted to touch on this. You said that you enjoy experimenting in your games, and you like to play different stuff. There's been some recent accusations, Shaz, thrown around on Twitter of thrown scrims. I mean, accusations is a weak word. there was some wild shit happening on Twitter between Hayes and Sinatra, particularly, where I don't know. Hayes normally comes across as quite a well thought out adult, where he's just, you know, he's got beef with someone. All right, don't like him, move on. This one fucking exploded, didn't he? He fucking exploded. What the hell was going on here?
Okay, this one I stayed out of actually on Twitter. Like I just completely avoided this. Like I don't understand why it even got to this point. Yeah, so we were screaming them, and we there was a misunderstanding. We thought they were trolling, like legitimately. We thought they were wasting our time. Like they were buying, like we're playing bind, and we thought they gave up because we were winning. Like they had like 4 rounds or something. We had like 18 rounds at the end or something. They're buying like 2 people A. One guy buys a Guardian and solo fights Shower. And another guy buys a Guardian and just solo fights U-Haul. And we're like, okay, like this is there's no way, like there's no way this is how you play this map. Like Jett's just solo fighting Showers and Omen's just solo fighting U-Haul, and this is your A defense. You know, like we legitimately thought they were trolling. So the next round we bought Odin's. Like we were maxed out on money, you know, like we were dominating the scrim. We said, okay, like let's just have fun then. Like if this isn't gonna be productive for us, let's just have fun.
Right.
So
you also did that in a match recently too. Who were you playing? I can't even remember. You bought 5 Odins and trolled them.
I think it was the XL one.
Or X.
So yeah, we thought they were trolling, and so we bought Odins, and I guess they weren't happy about that. And then I watched their matches in the next qualifier, and they bought Guardians, and they played like that, and they lost. So I guess they weren't trolling; they were actually playing like that. So that's our bad, I guess.
Okay.
I just couldn't believe he like tweeted about it. It's just one scrim, like.
Sure, yeah.
Just
I think
seems-
it seems
It's
ridiculous.
not a big deal.
it does seem
Like,
ridiculous. It's also Hayes was tweeting later on that it's like it's something that Sentinels do. Is it just? I mean, I've seen like clips of. There was a clip that was shown on. I think it was on Dapper's stream recently.
Yeah,
of like Zoms had recorded a round.
Dapper clutching against Dig.
Yeah, and you guys all just lost it, and you just like scream laughing. Like actually, you guys had lost your minds for at least 3 minutes there. Is the internal atmosphere within the team very trolly during practice?
Yeah, sometimes I feel like I'm running a daycare. You know, I'm like way older than the rest of the guys. So sometimes I do got to keep them in check. But it doesn't hurt to have fun with what you're doing. Like that clip is not like what's going on all the time. Like
Sure,
if we're
I
trolling
see
all our
that.
scrims, maybe other teams should start trolling their scrims, and maybe that's the key to success. Is like,
Deny
like-
everybody effective practice by trolling every scrim.
No. We do take practice seriously, but like we have fun. Like in that clip, I mean, we were dominating that scrim too, and like we're just like having fun for a round. Like we're just laughing, but we still like. I mean, obviously we want to be good. Like we take practice seriously, but like you know, if something happens in a round or a scrim, it's not the end of the world. Like I don't think you should go blast it on Twitter or freak out so much, in my opinion. But
Yeah. Do you ever find it hard to like? Does that ever happen in matches? And do you ever find it hard to like get the same energy from scrims and matches? Like if the matches end up being too serious, whereas you're joking around in scrims, then they're gonna feel like mega different. And I know some people have that environment. I've even played on teams when I played TF2 where we had that environment where people are just fucking trolling in scrims, and then you get into a match and everyone's so serious that it feels like you're playing a different game. You can't get the feel of it. Yeah, you do. You get whiplash from the difference of like the seriousness that people are taking it. But at the same time, if people were just dicking around in matches, you would end up losing focus too. Is there ever that kind of struggle with Sentinels?
No, I mean, at one point I feel like there was where I forgot when it was. Like we lost a match and like we realized like we were way too like not serious, but we weren't ourselves in the match. I don't know if it was like the FaZe Clan Ignition series or something. I just remember we were talking about it. Like normally when we play matches, like we still have fun with it. Like we'll joke around, or like, you know, it'll be
Dapper's
like
doing
a lighthearted
360s and down in claws. Yeah.
Was it one of the seeding games? Was it the Gen.G White Claw game? Or
yeah, that one actually. The seeding matches, I wish we took way more seriously than we did. I remember after one of the seeding matches, we were just like we should never do that again. Like, we just like some people, it's like hard for them to get into. Obviously, if it's like a pointless match to a sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
But also like, just felt like it was like a bad look. Like I hate losing. Like I want to beat everyone, even if it's a seeding match. So we just had like a healthy discussion after that, and we're like, yeah, we should not do that again and like take it more seriously. Like, if we want to show we're dominant, like people or whatever will like look at these seeding matches and think, oh, we're not as good as we say we are, or like our performances show. But yeah, no, we actually like we encountered that once where we were like way too serious in a match. And you could tell people were not having fun, I guess, or like, you know, they were like getting annoyed more easily or something. And then after that, like after that match, I remember we were like, okay, let's just try to be ourselves a bit more, like we are in scrims and stuff. And that was like really early on. But I remember like distinctly having that conversation with the team.
Right.
And so like it's a very healthy environment. Like
Yeah.
when we play scrims, when we play matches, it feels like it's the same. We're having fun, but we're obviously like still taking it seriously. Like, nobody's, you know, screaming, laughing in the middle of a round while we're in a round.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's actually G2 used to stream their scrims and their, well, not all of their scrims, but they used to stream it wasn't ever any scrims. It was matches from tournaments when they were doing the qualification portion for Ignition series, and they used to stream those, and their players, you know, they've all got funny accents, even the English people speaking English, and they're like talking to each other, and they're saying, oh, okay, only 10% troll this game, only 10% troll, trying to like scale it down from the scrims, and like as this gets more serious, reducing the percentage of trolling. But also, I think there's like a nugget of importance to that too, because it's not just let's try and have less fun. It's also allowing the players the freedom to make plays if they want to, and not being like, it's mega serious, don't make a single move unless it's the percentage play to do it. Like if you feel like you want to play a little looser and you feel like you're going to get away with it, then you should still do that against opponents. Like you can't get scared in a match and try and just play as tight as possible. If you're a team that likes to play loose, you still have to go into the matches trying to play loose and trying to play confident and taking aim duels if you want to take them and stuff.
Yeah, 100%. This game is like a huge confidence game. Taking fights or like taking those wide swings, like obviously has an advantage, and you need people that are going to be confident, like taking those duels. Also like just individual people taking like space or gathering info. It's just so important in this game when rounds break down. That confidence, like it feels like it plays a huge factor for us as a team, and I think other teams as well.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things that I wanted to kind of get into, sort of, I guess, transitions off the scrims versus TSM into Challengers 3 in some way, which is like Sentinels and TSM, that was the rivalry of Valorant. And at this point, it seems like maybe years down the line, that will just be a part of the ancient text.
Yeah, it's fucking dead.
I mean, at this point, so far, at least in 2021, you and LG have been a more significant rivalry. And then also you and 100 Thieves as well has kind of been more of a rivalry. And that one, there hasn't been any life to it for a while. But that was the match in NA Valorant for all of Ignition series for the beginning of the game. And now we're at this point in the first, for Masters 1, we're in Challenger 3. TSM are one of the only like top teams that would be in that conversation, typically as a team that would be able to win a tournament or make a grand final. They had struggled to make it through the first qualifier. And they finally have now. So I guess what I'm getting at is, do you think, or rather, what do you think the problem has maybe been for TSM so far in 2021? And do you think that the rivalry might ever get back the spark it used to, where you guys would end up in these deep tournament matchups, or is that just going to be a thing of the past?
And to go back to like the rivalry during the Ignition series and stuff, like I really enjoyed it. Like both our teams were really good, and the series was always competitive and like it was entertaining. I think it helped the esport a lot starting out.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is also the natural progression of the game, is that as people just learn how to play the game in a more consistent way and learn more like the little details that matter, like better teams are gonna come out, and like teams that don't adjust or don't adapt or don't take in the matter, like these little details are gonna fall off. And I feel like that's good. Like the games we played during this Ignition series is completely different from the games we're playing now. Like the level of understanding, like the rounds and like the approach is like obviously way more, even just a month later. The teams are getting better. Like LG is like a really, really good team, and like a rivalry versus them is like, it's not a bad thing, I think when it comes to TSM, obviously I don't know what their internal problems are, but it feels like they might lack direction or leadership, maybe even. It feels like they're always making like drastic changes to their comp or the way they play the game. I don't know if they didn't run Sentinels originally because they didn't think it was viable, or because none of the players wanted to play it. Like I some of the comps that they would run, or like decisions they would make, like question me. But then again, you don't know like who's taking charge of that, or individuals just don't want to play certain characters. Um, it's impossible to say like what's going on with the team, but obviously they're not near the level that they used to be.
Yeah.
Well, Kurt, do you maybe want to bring up the bracket for Challengers 3? Maybe we can just run through it and give some...
I don't think there is a Challengers 3 bracket.
Yeah, there is.
Is there?
Yeah.
You mean the qualification?
Yeah, for the main event.
Gotcha.
Qualifier, yeah. Just bring that up and give some predictions as to who might make it through as the final 4 teams.
Yeah, who would you expect to be able to make it through out of these? Because actually, yeah, the bracket has been created at this point as well. I forgot that was a thing. So weirdly too, only oh god, I hate doing bracket stuff as well. But I'm pretty sure only 2 of. Nope, you know what? I'm not even going to bother with this because I'm trying to figure out how the bracket works live, and my brain is too small. I'm actually a pea brain.
Are you trying to work out how many teams are going to qualify from Challengers 3?
No. I'll tell you what I'm trying to work out. When you have a bracket that's laid out like this, when you have first round matchups against certain teams, they can't make it all the way to the end. Like, there's a certain group of 4 where not all 4 of those teams can make it through to the end because they legitimately have to like face each other en route. But I'm not going to try and work out who those teams are. Not going to bother with that. Fuck it. Let's go. Who are the top 4 teams from this bracket?
Oh man, I think Luminosity, 100 Thieves, and then the other 2 is tough. Like,
hard.
I could see a world where Gen.G makes it for sure.
Yeah.
I think they've been playing better. I could see a world where TSM gets their shit together and also qualifies. And then NRG is like a weird team to me. I feel like they should be way better than they are, but they always find a way to like lose matchups that they should win. I don't know. And then T1 impressed me in like the most recent best of 3 I watched as well. I haven't seen any of FaZe since we last played them. FaZe is a weird team to me, like the weirdest team by far that I've ever played. I can never read them actually. Like, they're the one team I can never understand what they're doing, but I just know that we sit there and wait for them to like peek into us. Like,
What a summary.
Like, they usually play against is they might have gotten like all the trades they need to take a site, and they have an empty site, and they'll sit there and wait and like not take the site, and I don't know why. And then they'll decide like 20 seconds later, we're gonna take the site now that the rotates have come in. I don't know. They're such good players though. Like, individually, they're actually really, really skilled.
Yeah.
But that's a team that just.
It's incredibly frustrating to watch them because we also come from Overwatch, and so all of our fans pester us for like, what do FaZe need to do to improve? And we're like, fucking tons of shit. But the problem is that they already look. I mean, they're already arguably a top 10 team at the moment in North America. I mean, we're talking about them maybe having a chance of getting into Masters if they can pull out some upsets in this bracket. And the players are so skilled.
Can.
Exactly. It's so frustrating because the players can fucking aim, but they play like Overwatch players, Shaz. They, you know how you were describing it earlier, that the Overwatch players just always want to be active. They always want to be doing something all the time. These guys just want to peak constantly, and they want to push, and they want to, but they don't have any structure to how they do it, and it makes me mauled. And I hate that we're even talking about them because last week we said we weren't going to talk about FaZe anymore. We fucking started talking about it.
I mean, it's always the same conversation. Like everything ShahZaM said is everything we said just a million times over. I can't take it. But they're probably going to make it. I swear they're going to make it.
Yeah.
Because they just can win. They're just going to walk into the game against T1 and they're going to outskill them. Or they won't. But there's
no way
who can say. It just depends on the
they're the craziest team. I can see them beating anyone. Like, honestly, they just need discipline. That's literally it. They just need some discipline. That's all. They would be such a good team. That's like the craziest team. I'll never forget, we played them against them in a match, and in the party chat, Baby A was like, I'm dashing in a garage on pistol. Like, he's like, I'm buying a frenzy and I'm dashing in a garage on pistol. This is like the grand finals, I think, at JBL or something. And I was like, there's no shot. There's no way he's gonna do this. And we're all of it. Like, the 3 CS players were like, yeah, there's no way. Like, we're just gonna stick to what we know. And Sinatra and Psalms were like, no, he's gonna do it. Like, that's Baby Bay. Like, he's gonna do it. And he not only did he do a pistol round, he did it like most of the half. This is like the first map of a grand finals of a tournament. And he kept dashing in the garage like a crazy person and fighting. And I could not believe what I was witnessing. I've never played against someone like this. So they're the most interesting team for me. I like watching them play because it's just crazy.
They are an enigma. They are one of a kind.
They are unsolvable.
How clickbaity do we want to take this? Do we want to do the top 10 teams in North America?
I think we should. We've got a new graphic, Shaz, and we want to bust it out. And that means that you're the victim. You're the one that ends up getting
the first victim of
the
this.
bad end of the stick here.
You gotta get the engagement up.
Because I think once you've sorted out which teams you think are going to make it to Masters, you've already kind of locked in your top 8. And from there, you just add the 2 teams that you're most happy with, and you have the 10. The problem is ordering it within the top 10. Because boy, oh boy, that's got drama abounding. But I think coming into Masters is the perfect time to have opinions on where teams rank. Because at the end of Masters, you'll know, right? Like,
sure.
You'll at least, while some positions might be debatable, overall, you're going to have a pretty good idea. And it's going to be hard for people to have different opinions other than roughly how it played out. But before you go into Masters, the juice can abound. And then when things inevitably go differently, then it's mega interesting to figure out why things went so differently too.
Oh man, I'm not looking forward to this.
All right.
Okay.
So currently, if I'm correct, we just have this ordered as this is how it is on VLR, with the top 10 on VLR. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So then we make adjustments from here. I think we leave Sentinels at number 1 because I don't think it's fair to have ShahZaM. I don't know how to pronounce that team, so we're not going to put them up there. But I think we leave Sentinels as number 1 because it'd be unfair for Shaz to have to,
also
genuinely put anyone else above. And also, I do think the Sentinels should be ranked number 1. Made it into all of the finals, or lost to the team that has won the tournament. They've been at the top forever, like over the last 3 months, been very successful.
Yeah. I feel like we should be going off just 2021.
Sure.
With this right
yeah,
now.
yeah.
It's been a couple months. We've seen a lot of matches. What was that count? There's like 43, 47 BO3s streamed or something.
But even
we've
still,
seen enough matches.
Shaz has got the inside info.
We're not going off the scrim bucks.
I want to hear some scrim bucks.
No scrims.
I want to hear some scrim bucks,
but
man.
Yeah, Sentinels at number 1 is still reasonable for 2021 so far.
But the big question is, who the heck at number 2? Like, who do you actually think, Shaz, is the number 2 team right now? Envy clearly won the most recent tournament. Immortals have made a bunch of deep runs recently. You could consider those guys. The other rosters that would previously be up there are kind of all over the place right now. What's your pick?
Oh man, I'm scared of having recency bias on this, but I think Envy should be number 2. I think they just had a really, really good tournament and they're looking in form. But then there's also a case for Immortals because they did qualify before as well. It's tough. I would personally, I would put Envy. I'd rate Envy a second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you have to put Envy as well, because if they beat the number 1 team, but then also they beat Immortals. Immortals, they made the finals in the previous Challenger, but they got rolled.
Yeah, I think it's fine to have recency bias regarding it, though. It's at the end of the day, you're rating. You got to weigh the most recent tournaments higher than you do.
Yeah, the most recent tournament
ones
should be higher. Yeah, I think that personally, I think that probably it'd be Immortals at number 2. If I was doing my own personal rankings, but I think that Envy haven't. Yeah, because they've made just so many consistent deep runs in tournaments over the course of 2021. But I don't think that they're the weird thing about Immortals is, do I think they're actually the second best team in the region right now? No. But I think the normal way that you would build power rankings is that they've kind of proven themselves over a larger period of time than a team like Envy has. But
yeah.
I also am perfectly fine with Envy at number 2 because I do think that they're going to be able to replicate their success that they had in the most recent tournament. A load of people were asking me it was a once-in-a-lifetime performance from Food. There's no way he replicates that. And all right, fair enough. Maybe Food isn't going to drop 53 and 19 or whatever the hell his stat line was. But they don't need that to be able to go deep in tournaments. Food can still put up a normal good performance and they can still make it to a final and lose, or maybe even still have a chance of winning a final, considering that they kind of dominated in that one. There was so much more than just Food playing well about Envy's success.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that too. I think Envy at number 2 makes sense.
Who's your number 3?
Yeah, number 3.
It's so weird to me because obviously these teams are performing well versus other teams and stuff, but with our personal matchups, Immortals, that grand finals felt kind of easy, but I know Immortals have been beating a ton of other teams, and same thing with a team like XET is XET's having really good showings, but then when we play against them, they don't feel like the strongest team when I play against them. It's kind of weird, but I think that you have to put Immortals at 3 here, just from their performances and their placings recently.
Yeah. I mean, I
think,
I agree with that.
Yeah, I think with teams like Immortals and XSET, with how green their players are, I've said this a couple of times, but I think that you can tell when they play against you guys or other teams that they might perceive to be above them, even if that might not be the case in terms of their play. They lose confidence in their play. I firmly believe that from the grand finals that we saw them play against you. It felt like they'd lost a lot of steam from one day to the next. Going up against you guys. I mean, it's
There was a lot of backpedaling. There was a lot of easy shots being whiffed. There was a lot of people like being scared to actually take map control or being scared to push into areas when they've already used the correct utility because they're still scared that there could be a player there. Like all of these things factor into it and end up with them crumbling in their showings against Sentinels. But they are still a really good team.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The other part to this as well is that 100 Thieves, because they didn't have Nitro and they ended up going out to Carpe Noctem at the beginning of the year, we really haven't seen much of 100 Thieves compared to these other teams. So, you know, if 100 Thieves had had their main roster and been able to qualify for Challengers 1, we actually might have a much higher, opinion, a much higher opinion of 100 Thieves compared to our current opinion, because we just, you know, if you're only considering 2021, they were absent from the first major tournament of the year. For reasons that they could only half control. I mean, half control, yeah, but half of it was Nitro's fault that he ended up having a baby. The other half, well, so 100 Thieves in 4th place, is that?
I mean, I personally, I think you have to give it to Luminosity. They won Nerd Street. They've already qualified. They beat 100 Thieves. They've beaten plenty of other teams on this top 10. I think they have to go in 4.
What's your take on it, Shaz?
Has LG qualified for Masters? I don't think so yet. Right?
They didn't. Sorry, they came in 5th.
Yeah. The other team that qualified for Masters was XSET.
It was XSET. But yeah, I mean,
I'm quite high up on XSET.
I mean, yeah,
I would have them up.
Bren's been smoking the fumes of XSET.
I think that team's got tons of potential.
This is where it gets really tough. Like, I don't think 100 Thieves was a bad team. I don't think they will be a bad team, or like they won't be like top 5 or top 4. But obviously, like from this year, they just haven't played. Like, haven't seen them. So, like personally, I would put maybe Luminosity at 4th. But maybe I have some bias from like playing against them. Like, I feel like they're a really strong team.
Yeah, I think they've definitely had the results recently. Like they've absolutely made it deep in tournaments. It was actually surprising to me that they weren't able to qualify. Like the fact that XSET beat that's what happened, right? XSET beat LG to be able to go over, and that to me I thought was a surprising result, because XSET had been getting their pieces together and they've definitely been improving over time. But I thought LG would win that game because they were able to relatively comfortably beat them the previous outing. But now we've got a ranking that ends up with XSET being ranked at 6, despite being qualified for Masters ahead of LG and 100 Thieves. People still sleeping on this team?
I'm not sleeping on XSET.
No, I don't think we're sleeping on them, but I just think it's pretty reasonable so far.
I mean, I would
seen in 2021.
XSET at 5th.
I'd put them above 100 Thieves.
I mean, yeah, you could maybe put them above 100 Thieves then, because they qualified. But
you're gonna put 100 Thieves at 6th?
Well, there's something about that just doesn't feel quite right.
They lost 1,000 SR by losing to Carpe Noctem.
Yep. Yes.
It's not even that though. It's the roster changes for me as well, and
See, that's an interesting point, because I'm not sure how 100 Thieves are gonna perform out the gate with Ethan.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially because they're not just one-to-one swapping Ethan in for Dicey. He's not coming in to play Jett for them. They've said that Nitro's moving off smokes and Ethan's coming in onto smokes. And they even talked about playing single duelist comps. These are big fundamental changes for the team. And it would be reasonable for them to have longer-term success than having kept Dicey. But short-term, you might be a bit slow coming out the gates as you teach Ethan everything about like how you want him to integrate with the team and stuff. And I wouldn't expect him to be as good as Dicey, like straight out the gates. Do I expect Dicey? Wouldn't expect him to be as good as Nitro straight out the gates. And do I think that Nitro is going to be as good on like a I don't even know what he's going to play. A breach?
I mean, he
a
seems
fucking
very
Sova
comfortable
and
on
Lethiko
Omen.
and breach? Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Shahz, what's your opinion on it?
I originally thought when I saw the announcement that Nitro maybe would Jett up. Like I played against him in ranked.
Yeah.
And he would play that character. And
yeah, I mean,
he was
maybe
an
he
upper
will.
in CS and he was really good. But I feel like they're kind of restructuring a whole lot then if they're not going to run like, if they're not going to run 2 duelists or however they run it. It's impossible to judge a team with like the changes they've made.
Yeah, that's really the problem. I think 100 Thieves are kind of ending up in this spot by almost default. I mean, they didn't have a great showing, obviously, in Challengers 2, but
it wasn't terrible, though.
It wasn't terrible.
They were really close to beating LG. It felt like they
Yeah.
should have beaten LG, but they threw away a lot of the post-plan situations and whiffed a couple of really important rounds. I still felt from watching that 100 Thieves were the better team. Like, this is, I mean, I guess I've fallen into Bren's.
Well, do you want 100 Thieves above
Fumes
XSET? Does everybody here think that 100 Thieves should be above XSET?
Hey, it's
so Shah's
close.
episode. It's Shah's ranking.
We're putting so much pressure on Shahz. I feel bad here. We're going for these clickbait power rankings. You know this is going to get clipped out of context.
Like, I'm not trying to knock on 100 Thieves. I think they are a top 5 team, but like if we rate it by like performances, like XSET should be above, right?
Yeah.
XSET
Yeah.
Yes.
just qualified. I mean, they beat good teams. Like,
that's just facts. You can't really dispute it.
Yeah,
100
you can't
Thieves,
take away from XSET.
the fans will try, but
yeah. No printer, as the children say.
no printer.
Oh
Fact,
my God.
No printer.
Oh, really?
Apparently, that's what the youths are
one day.
Get
saying.
this guy off the show right now. Beyond the 100 Thieves, we're getting into some difficult territory.
Oh, it's murky depths after that,
yeah.
isn't it? It is
'Cause,
just murky depths.
I mean, Cloud9, get them out of here.
I mean, probably
Gen.G.
Gen.G, yeah.
Yeah.
It has to be Gen.G.
They've been looking improved recently. Like, they had a
Yeah.
lot of issues with not just being the ultra set. We are going to hit a bomb site and send you a written letter that we're hitting that bomb site kind of team. But they've actually made some serious improvements to their gameplay and managed to flesh out a bit more of a structured style. Or a less structured style, actually.
Yeah, I agree too. I think they're looking way better. I think they could definitely climb this ranking too. Like, I could see them qualifying with the way they've been playing.
Yeah, definitely.
I
I think Kusta's really surprised me, actually, just how quickly he's picked up the game. I think that he like, typically, I think one of the hardest things to get when you're just switching over is like the intuition, the knowledge of just what's going on that you can't see, because you just need playtime to get that. But he's picked up a great sense for the game very quickly.
And at this point in the rankings,
Yeah.
just shove any teams in there.
Well,
I feel this is difficult, is it not?
It is really difficult, yeah. And I think TSM should probably be there, though.
Yeah.
I think that something that doesn't get spoken about that much, and I was just trying to look it up to fact check myself, but I'm pretty sure TSM had a really difficult bracket to be able to get through the first qualifier, didn't they? Like, for Challengers 1 and Challengers 2, I think they ran into some tough teams.
I mean, they
Now-
lost to Gen.G. I can't remember who it was in the first one.
Yeah, because TSM had to go through Dig, and then they also had Gen.G, and who else did they? Maybe I'm just
Oh, it was
making
XSET.
excuses for them here. XSET,
Yeah, they lost to XSET.
They
Yeah,
lost to
Gen.G.
XSET on the rise.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So-
they really have only lost to teams that we would rank above them. It's not like they've been getting boomed, but when you watch them in the game, they're clearly not an elite team right now. But I think it's fair to rank them at the spot below.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Like, just from seeing him look at the match history, like, it looked like those are close BO3s, both of them too. So
Yeah, yeah. And then, I'm going to say it, FaZe belongs there.
You think
Yeah.
FaZe?
Yeah,
you gotta
I
put
agree
FaZe.
too.
Okay.
You have to.
Much as it pains me.
And then
And then T1 for
I think it. Yeah, I mean, I think it has to be T1.
Yeah,
Right?
I actually
Who
think
else could we-
Dignitas is a good team, but I think
Yeah.
they've gotten unlucky during this
Sure.
this year. Actually, like they they got blasted by TSM, and it wasn't because Dig were playing poorly, but they just got skill diffed, man. Like, when you looked at that series, they were getting boomed by Waddell opping, and Drone and Sabrosa just running on them. And Dig couldn't do anything about it. Like, it was only Rara that was keeping up. But I think that all of Dig's team, I actually do have a little bit of hope for them in the future. Like, once they get Sam back and they can actually play seriously and start improving and getting their shit together, I think Dignitas could be on a bit of a comeback after having essentially done nothing since Pop Flash.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, I can see where you're coming from with that. So this is locked in for our audio listeners, because I think we didn't really spell out who the middle teams were.
True. I mean, we frequently just abandon our audio listeners to try and pick the pieces together. If you watch if you listen on Spotify or something, why?
Well, I mean, some people will like to listen, they're cleaning, put it on in the background or something,
True.
You put it up anyway. But Sentinels,
VR goggles.
Here's the list. Sentinels, Envy, Immortals, Luminosity, 5 is XSET, 100 Thieves, Gen.G, TSM, FaZe, and then T1. There's your top 10 Plat Chat Valorant power rankings North America. I'll happily take the blame for this, Shaz, so
Gotta tell
you don't get the ire of the social media masses.
100 Thieves fans not going to be happy about that.
Yeah, I'll happily take the blame. You can send
position.
You can send them over my way.
I feel like they should be higher, but it's like impossible to put them
that's
above some of these teams. So.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like, if you're just going off what we've seen and results.
But they could easily rise before Masters just based on results in Challengers 3. Like, in Challengers 3, if they come out the gate and they look great and they beat a bunch of these teams, they would immediately jump up. Like, it's such a slim margin between them, and in fact, I would even have them above. But it's really debatable where they should be between the 4th and the 6th spot. Like, you could even see them overtaking LG, I think, if they had a really good performance in Challengers 3.
Yeah, because LG hasn't even qualified yet. Yeah. Like, even them being above XSET is like a bit different, because I think they lost XSET.
Yeah, they did most recently. Yeah, I think they're even all time with XSET.
I'm kind of giving them. I was giving LG credit in my mind for winning a tournament in 2021 as well.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's quite reasonable. All right, I think this is going to finalize our episode. ShahZaM, again, thank you very much for joining us, man. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Dude, thanks for having me, guys. It was fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no problem. We'll have to get you here in person at some point, or maybe some of the other Sentinels people once we can sneeze on each other without being worried about death.
Oh yeah, you guys are in Austin.
Yep. We're all based in Austin.
Plat Chat is now Austin LLC.
Exactly. At some point, tear up 6th Street. Yeah, we'll just paint a town red or something. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Anyway, thanks for joining us again, and leave a comment if you're watching this and you want to see another guest on that we haven't really been thinking about. Thought about. Let us know who you want to see next coming up on the show. This has been BACKCHAT, and we'll see you on Wednesday for another episode of Plat Chat Valorant. See you then.